Hello and welcome to Bits and Atoms, the Grisham Robotics Founder Series. I'm your host, Elias Can, and today I've got Kanoj Vora, co-founder and CEO of Prospect AI. To get started, Kanoj, would you mind sharing a quick intro about yourself and Prospect AI?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me. My name is Kanoj. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Prospect AI. What we do is we help B2B companies scale their sales pipeline by providing AI agents to take care of their full end-to-end top of funnel outbound. A bit about myself, I've just been an entrepreneur since five. So I've always been hustling since then to always go and find new ways to make to sort of help and grow and sell things. And yeah, I guess I've been running Prospect AI now for almost a few years. Yeah. So I guess before that, it all started maybe 10 years ago. Back when I binge watched a lot of Marvel and DC stuff. So I watched Iron Man specifically, and me and a friend had this crazy idea to go and build JARVIS. So he would go build the hardware, I'd go build the software. And pretty much I realized that I had no idea what I was doing. So I just tried to learn a little bit of machine learning whilst I was balancing school. From there, I started an anonymized remote jobs marketplace back in like 2019 because I thought the world would start to work remote within a few years. And it did, maybe like a year and a bit after. And then from there, helped another friend with his startup. And a common theme that I saw that I needed, that kind of caused a blink in my head, was that a lot of people need help with go-to-market, and myself included. So I started building to try to solve my own problems.
Very cool. And did your friend end up building the hardware side for JARVIS, or still working on it?
No, he did not. I don't think he actually touched it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that side might take a little bit longer to have a working Iron Man suit or something like that. But very cool. And it's interesting you mentioned kind of like the personal interest as well around JARVIS and kind of this idea of like a personal AI, for you. And maybe that was like an early inspiration. Maybe as you were coming up and getting a little bit older and more mature, what was kind of like the tipping point for you to say, I want to make the leap and be a founder and try my hand at this?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always kind of, I guess for the majority of my life, I've always had something going on. Like I've always had some sort of side hustle or something I'd always been working on. I think the thing that caused me to take the leap on Prospect AI is I remember it was an evening, I can't remember when, it was back in like 2022 or something. And I was listening to a podcast, I think with Drew Houston from Dropbox. And one of the things he said that stuck out to me was that he was just trying to build something to solve his own problem. And that's the best way for a lot of these companies to start. And for a long time, I hadn't been solving my own problems. I'd just been doing what I thought the market wanted, and just kind of going on instinct. And this was the first time where I actually had experienced the problem initially back then when we first started Prospect AI, where we were actually just a contacts database where we would find leads, do research, and send it to like an account executive every morning. That was the problem that I had, was that I just needed to find leads, and doing that through like Sales Navigator was a huge pain. So that's how we actually started off. So I took the leap because I just believed that I actually now had some sort of domain expertise to go and solve a problem. And at that time, GPT-3's API had just come out under private usage. So I figured that it made a lot of sense to just go ahead and start building.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that kind of rhetoric of, go and solve a problem that you're having, I hear it a lot for folks who are on the founder side and in different spaces, or something that they find on the consumer side, maybe something personally interesting, and then it ends up being a much bigger audience than maybe they ever expected. And so, yeah, your experience on the sales side kind of led you here. And like you said, you were starting to learn and tinker a bit with more of like the ML AI side before. I guess for you, when did you start Prospect AI, and what was kind of the initial read you had on what you wanted to build there?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much so we started I started writing the first lines of code for Prospect AI back in I want to say like late October of 2022, around about then. So in my like room, I was just literally just starting to write code, and initially I started building because I was just trying to replicate a process that was so painful. I just hated, with a sheer passion, going into Sales Navigator, then going to like some sort of like Apollo tool or Zoom Info or whatever, and just getting contact information, or going online and like using Lusher and these other tools to go get contact information, just for me to go and do the thing that I wanted to do, which was just go ahead and reach out to people. And I initially thought that my process just sucked. That's my initial thought. So I started talking to a bunch of people who were like account executives, and just trying to get a sense if my process sucked or if this is actually normal. And after speaking to a couple dozen people, I was like, okay, this is like, every single person said the same thing. They do the exact same process. And I realized that there was an opportunity to solve that. So what I did initially is, whilst I was building, I'd be doing one of two things. I was literally on Reddit like 12 hours a day, and I would just be on like r/sales and just cold DMing hundreds of people just to get like some sort of meetings booked, just to do user interviews and user research. And that's how we started building the first first like version of Prospect AI. Was one, using my own sort of insight as to what I thought a solution that I would want, but also two, speaking to people who actually could help me to refine it a bit better, and who turned out to be sort of helpful like beta testers and early users.
Yeah, the Reddit source is an interesting one, because you definitely, maybe there versus a platform like LinkedIn. Twitter can probably be a bit like this as well, but people are going to be pretty candid on Reddit because there's less pressure to kind of like have this persona there, versus LinkedIn. People are less likely to go on and just like complain a lot because it's not good like professional fodder, basically. So I'm sure, yeah, the LinkedIn source was an interesting place to find people.
LinkedIn is definitely a good place for sure. Yeah, I did use LinkedIn, although admittedly I probably should have used it a lot more than I actually did. Mainly just because I didn't have as many connections. So, and based on like limitations you have with LinkedIn, you can't really send too many connections. But with Reddit, there was just like no limit. So DMing a bunch of people and then just being like transparent and having a little bit of back and forth, and then just asking them for a call, then surprisingly worked out pretty well. Although, I mean, obviously there was some people who did not want to sort of reveal their anonymity and break that to a complete stranger, but completely understandably. But yeah, no, I mean, Reddit was pretty much where I lived for most of it, but LinkedIn was a little bit of a help wherever I could use it.
Yeah. It's an interesting early hack to try and get some of those user interviews to use Reddit. I've heard of people trying to not do like sponsored channels, but at least like post a lot about their product as well. Sometimes that can have a little bit of backlash when people sniff out that it's a little too promotional. But I think your idea of reaching out to folks on Reddit directly to say, hey, can I chat with you? Like, it's a more genuine kind of take there.
Yeah, I think it varies. I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, honestly, about like the best way to go to market. I think it's just like, and this is what I say to every single like person I talk to when it comes to go to market. It's just about, where are your users, and just go to there, wherever that is. It could be, they might be complete like ghosts, but if you can meet them in person somehow, like on a specific event, then that's perfect. With Reddit, I think I think I just did Reddit because it was just instinctual. I just felt like I could just, it was something that I could control. Whereas with content, it's something that takes a while to build up to do it really well, which it can work, and it can work exceptionally well. It just takes a while, and I was just really impatient. I just wanted to spam as many people as possible to get them on the call. But yeah, no, I don't think I think any sort of approach for just getting your first users is helpful, assuming the intention of those user interviews is actually to get data. But it's really helpful when a user interviewee says, hey, I would like X, and then you come back and saying, hey, I built X, would you like to take a look? They're more likely to actually work with you, which was things that we did as well, especially because those people were like enterprise companies. So that was really, really helpful.
Yeah. And it's a nice point of validation for them to be like, hey, look at what I suggested, and now it's here in the product. For folks listening today, who might be less aware, like tell us more about Prospect AI. Like if you were to maybe oversimplify it into kind of what you see as the core product and use case or use cases for it today, like where does that kind of stand?
Yeah, sure. So we help pretty much any B2B company in the first world. Most of them are generally sort of later down the line, but we do work with startups as well and some enterprise users as well. What we do as a platform is we take care of everything end to end, like a lot of platforms in the market do, which is like setting up email infrastructure to avoid spam, finding leads through our database or through online trigger events. So like if you're seeing something on LinkedIn that makes you think a person is now a qualified lead, then that sort of thing we can try to find, or any sort of events. Doing research on the person as well as the company to find relevant trigger points, doing outreach, and then scheduling meetings. The areas I guess that we do a little bit differently to most people is that we focus quite a lot on the intelligence layer. And the way that we've built the product is we're not trying to create a product that is another tool in your stack, or it's also not meant to be another software tool you have to learn and play around with. It's meant to feel more like an experience of working with a colleague, where it's going to proactively come at you with suggestions and ideas on how to improve things over time, and then gradually improve that. And yeah, that's probably the product in a nutshell.
Yeah, interesting. And so is the way that you would interact with it, is it mostly chat interface? Is it mostly like maybe like you said, it's proactively reaching out to you, so maybe it is more of like it's proactively sending email or some kind of like message interface or something like that?
Yeah. A lot of it is on email. So like if there's like a lead who's interested, who needs following up or something, then Isabel, our AI, will go ahead and reach out to the user and say, hey, this person's interested. Here's the context where they can view the full conversation thread, research that we've generated, etc. Can I do X or Y, or can I schedule this meeting for this time, this day, or this time, this date? The other way is people do use the platform itself, especially when it comes to reviewing things. So one of the things that we built out, which we thought was really, really important, was recursive self-learning. So let's say you have a few campaigns that are running. Some of them are working, some of them aren't, and you want to figure out what's going on and how you can improve your overall performance. Normally, a person would have to go in, figure it out themselves, and make time to do that and create a hypothesis and have a rough idea of whether or not it could work or not. Instead, the system will go ahead and do that for that individual and just notify them through email saying, hey, we've got a few ideas on how to improve this campaign. Can you take a look at it? And then if they look at those, like I saw one the other day from my own, saying that I should switch and doing LinkedIn outreach first before doing email for people in like the EU, because historically it's just worked out better for me. And if I just click on apply, it'll just go ahead and execute those changes for me. So I don't have to go and do the execution. I just have to review what the system is saying and allow it to do it if I want to.
Yeah, interesting. And so yeah, you don't have to go manually tweak and change it. It'll kind of surface that for you, because I'm sure there's so many like variables probably to any campaign as well that like for most to kind of figure it out now too, and with how the way algorithms work on like a LinkedIn or something, like it can be hard for the end user to know like what they're doing is actually working or not, like in a clean, digestible way.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is truth seeking. I think that's like super, super important because there can be a lot of things that can slip through the cracks. But if you have a really, really scrutinizing system that's actively trying to find everything wrong with like what could be going wrong, that helps a lot to just identify the truth and the root cause and then just solve that issue.
Yep. And now maybe a question for you here in terms of, you know, obviously you'd have to be living under a rock not to be aware of AI and how it's kind of permeating across the landscape. Like if you're thinking about Prospect AI and maybe other competitors or folks that you see as in a similar space, like how do you kind of view your main differentiator or selling point about Prospect AI that you think is better or makes you unique? Curious how you think about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there's a lot of, because of the perpetuation of vibe coding, it's made the barrier to building software a lot lower. So naturally, the bar for quality is like directly proportional to that. So it's going to end up following in a negative linear trend. Now, the way that what I found is when I've spoken to our users about why they've chosen to work with us compared to other people, it's come down to two things. The first is on the product side. And on that product side, it's just a different experience compared to a lot of what other people do. So what I mentioned earlier about email infrastructure, finding leads, research, executing outreach, and scheduling meetings, everybody does that. And because of that, everyone looks the same. They have the exact same approach. And at that point, it just becomes a game of marketing and just trying to capture market share and fighting for every last dollar that you can. But we aren't trying to do that. We're trying to just focus more on the intelligence layer and help build a system that feels like actually working with a teammate, not a software tool. So we've just taken a different approach, and the interface just looks a lot different. As well as a few different features that we have built out that people just haven't seen before, ever. So like we have a feature called the Today page, which is literally just finding anything that needs to be handled immediately and just putting that front and center. So there won't be any sort of filibustering like that you might get with like an agency. It'll just be direct to the truth that, hey, this is broken and needs your attention right now. Or these leads haven't been touched yet, and you need to reach out. You need to schedule them back in or nurture them back in. Or your competitors have done X, Y, Z in the past few days. You need to take a look at this. It's just going to bring a lot of these things front and center, and it's just a different experience that people have got to work with. So that's on the product front. On the second front is actually on the approach, I guess, that we've just taken. The common thing is, and I would encourage anyone who's listening to this to go ahead and check their own email inbox. I can almost guarantee that you're probably going to see some sort of an email saying that, hey, we can get you 25 meetings in like 10 seconds, or some sort of exaggerated claim about getting pipeline. But in reality, that doesn't happen. And what's happened now in the market is that the market for outbound has just hit trust at an all-time low, because you get this market of people who have said these bold claims, failed to live up to those expectations. The client feels burned, having spent God knows how much money. And then the end result is you're perpetuated with this market of distrust. So the reason why on the approach side is that we just set very realistic expectations, which we've also sort of baked into the platform. So that way, one, we can actually be realistic with a person saying, hey, look, we're not going to get you 20 meetings of a $10 per meeting thing. It might cost you a couple $100 a meeting. But here's realistically what you can achieve in the next month or so. And if things go right, then great. And if things go wrong, then we work together with the person to fix them. And we're just very hands-on with that. And I think the thing that people appreciate is that we don't try to hide behind anything. So like if something isn't working like immediately, or like isn't working within a couple of weeks, we'll call it out first. Like we're not going to hide behind anything or try to defend anything. We're going to call it out and say, hey, this isn't working. We need to modify the offer, for example. And then we'll just talk to the user and try to help them. So I think those are the two things that probably two biggest reasons that people have chosen to work with us over competitors.
Amazing. And yeah, the trust layer piece, I think in this age of AI, it's challenging anywhere. It's challenging, for B2B and B2C alike. I think it's pretty much like a pretty universal problem there across everything. Just it's only getting better. It's only going to continue the AI will only continue to get better, most likely. And so I think that trust piece, like you mentioned, really fundamentally is a core differentiator today. If folks can find that way to kind of display and foster that trust, because there's still, for now at least, still a human element on the other side of the table that you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? Like, I mean, I think it's not one of those traditional business competitive advantages by any means, but I think long term it probably would be a competitive advantage, because reputation, I think, matters more than anything to us. Like we have like 3 R's that we hold like internally, which is like reputations, relationships, results. And those are things that we care about the most. So we want to make sure that our name is like pristine, that every single person that works with us, they are left with insane value and incredible gratitude for working with us. And yeah, I mean, that's the way that we've just taken it, and long term we think that will hopefully pan out.
Absolutely. I think it's a great 3R kind of like motto to have internally, gold standard right there. That's awesome.
For sure.
And we're at time. I want to thank you, Kanoj, for joining me on Bits and Atoms. It was great to have you today. Lovely conversation. I'll let you get back to building. And thanks again for the time.
Thanks, Elias. I appreciate you having me, and yeah, good to catch up.